I know a lot of agency owners know that there's tons of hidden sources of life insurance within their books of business.
Yeah, I think not. I mean, there's so many. I think I think life insurance sales has become so marginalized down to just this transaction or just this other policy when it has such a big role in people's lives at so many different stages. Everything from, I'll give you three examples. How about the 75-year-olds, the 65, let's say the 65-year-olds in your book of business who have grandchildren. And if you poked a little bit, you'd find out they have over $100,000 in CDs because they're savers. And if you say, well, what would you ultimately like to see that money do when you no longer needed it? Inevitably, you'll hear about the grandkids. And you can ask them, well, would you like to see that money go to them in a larger amount, maybe in a tax-free and probate-free way? And what I'm talking about here is single premium whole life for wealth transfer. So a lot of times we might have, especially our sales team, they're not in their working years. I shouldn't even bring up life insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's go to the other end of the spectrum, parents with young children. Oftentimes you'll find that parents with young children don't even have wills. They haven't established guardianship. And even if they've thought through those issues a little bit, and even if they thought about, well, I'd like my children to go with my sister Sally, she's a great mom and he's a great dad.
Right.
They haven't really thought through the financial burden they'll be placing on another family to bring in two children, raising them to maturity.
Right.
So we talk about in a concept that I call funded guardianship, which is explaining that financial impact on that family and showing them how to use uniform transfers to Minors Act beneficiary designations and testamentary trusts and wills to actually have a very substantial amount of money put in the care of the guardian or another financial fiduciary to make sure your children are cared for and raised the way you want without creating resentment within the other family. And I describe it to the client this way. Kids are cruel. So if your kid's cousins say, we used to get really good Christmas presents until you showed up, or we used to go on really good vacations until you showed up. I have said those two things, and unfortunately it makes people cry. And it's not my intention to make them cry, but immediately, oftentimes the moms can go right there and see it.
Right.
And I'm not trying to be manipulative. It is reality because it is very expensive to raise two. Now I make four. Did you said you wanted them to take care of them, but did you ever really give them the resources to take care of
them?
Yeah. So there's probably dozens. I mean, every town has a school district, right? The school district is often one of the largest employers. It's also one of the last places that people are getting pensions. The problem is, and a lot of agents have heard of the pension maximization concept. The problem is they're presenting to the client at 65 when they're trying to make their pension election between single life and joint life and trying to pitch a life insurance policy at a point where the person's either not going to qualify medically or can't afford it.
Right.
You can actually get the person at age 40 to do it as a staged plan to intentionally know back when they're a teacher who are going to stay a teacher for 25 years.
Right.
When I retire, I know I'll have the ability to take the higher single life income because I've done a long-term term to permanent conversion over that time. That's one of my favorite strategies because it opens up a huge market to you, which is everybody who works for the school district in your town. So those are some examples of things that are hidden.
Yeah.
That if we stop the fire hose of stuff that's coming at us every day, there's so much money to be made from just the regular life events that are going on with your clientele.